Welcome back to the channel.
Today, we are doing our podcast preview for you guys, where we're going to be talking about some of the nuances and differences we've seen with our favorite Disney YouTubers.
Yeah, and this is our awkward chats for October 2024. And if you want to hear the rest of it, make sure to head over to wherever you get your favorite podcast, and you'll find us under awkward chats.
So we'll come and get you guys in just a second.
Let's go.
As we were saying, there's a few vloggers I think that we've watched for a number of years, even before we started our whole YouTube journey, and it's kind of interesting how things have changed. And there's obviously like new vloggers that have like come into the space too in that time frame too that we sort of watch here and there, but more specifically, I think the big ones that we watch, and I think most people know who these people are the Trackers, Adam the Woo.
We watch
Paging Mr. Morrow, but not as much as we used to. We watch the WGWNT news channel here and there, just to kind of stay up to date on what's happening at Disney. And then outside of that, I think those are like the core Disney vloggers that we watch. And it's just because a lot of people, like, we were watching Jackie for a while. We watched her content, super enthused, when she first kind of came out and kind of came across our radar. And she was good. I enjoyed her content in the beginning. But now not so much.
Well, I think, and I don't want to talk in specific vloggers because that really is, you know, they come and go. They have their good vlogs occasionally, and they have a lot. What I've noticed a lot with the Disney vloggers is the simpleness of they're all doing the same thing. They're all clearly on the same media list.
Yeah.
Like they're all going to Legoland right now. It's like we're filming this the end of September.
Mm-hmm.
All of their vlogs are Legoland. They don't even have kids, most of them, and yet they're going to Legoland. It's like, well, it's clearly you're on the media list, right?
Yeah, and last week was Halloween Horror Nights everywhere.
Last week Halloween Horror Nights, and then they fly out to the West Coast to do that, or D23. Yeah. So it's like, it's the same stuff over and over and over again. And it just kind of gets tiring after a while. Like, you're like, what is the point of watching 4 different vlogs on Halloween Horror Nights?
And it used to be that I feel like I used to watch them to get a different perspective, but now I feel like they're all showing the same point. So I don't even feel like I'm getting a different perspective from different vloggers. I feel like I'm getting the same PR points from all of them.
One of the things I find interesting is like you said, it's the same stuff, right? None of them okay, let me restart this when I'm thinking about it. So like they used to go to the parks, right? And then they just would hang out. They would do stuff. They would go on rides. They would just have a nice day. That's non-existent on their channels anymore. It's so PR driven that it's like they have an objective. There's a new food at X restaurant. So they go to X restaurant. They have X food. You'll literally see the other vloggers in the back of each other's cameras too, because they're all there at the same time. They all go the first day. They all go immediately when it opens. They all rush home to get it edited, and then they throw it up there on the YouTube.
And then it's a fight, I feel like, even just for them, like just coming from people who do YouTube ourselves, now you're competing with each other, literally, because you're all throwing out the same keywords, you're throwing out the same SEO, and you're publishing within 24 hours of each other, and you're fighting for those views. And it's kind of like, why would you set yourself up for that? That seems a little silly.
It's not only that. They're also doing like the artificial intelligence route. So they're all just doing these simplistic things, whatever keywords are popping up in whatever system they look at for keywords, and they're pumping out that stuff. And that's all they're really doing. They're not doing anything original. They're doing exactly what they think is going to make them money, which I understand to an extent. Obviously, a lot of them are in it just for the money. They're not Disney fans. Let's be honest. If you watch Disney content, you'll notice that probably about
80%.
I was going to say 5 or 6 out of 7 would be.
That's about the same.
Would be they're not Disney fans.
Yeah, non-Disney fans.
And you only notice it when they get really down to the details, because obviously they're polished for their thing. If they go to Tiana's kitchen, they're gonna look up Tiana facts so they can spit them out at you when they're there.
Yeah,
But
it's
but
become nauseating.
but if you go down to like the specific thing that's there, like this really sort of like tiny thing, like why did the alligator or crocodile, I guess is technically what he was, get a spur in his butt? They wouldn't know because they didn't actually watch the movie. They only read the points, either from
Yeah.
the PR team or their own research.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like originally when we started watching more YouTube in our lives, because I feel like YouTube really only became like a thing that people started watching in the last decade. I think there were people who were watching it prior to that, but it wasn't such a mass market as it's been in the last decade. And originally, when I started watching these people, like you said, like they were going to the park, they were having a good time. And even if it was a PR video, they did a great job at trying to hide the fact that it was a PR video, because I think there's ways that you can.
Well, some did. Some did a great job. Some have been bad from day one.
Correct.
Let's be fair.
But I think originally that was kind of where I got the idea of like, you know what, I want to do this too. Like, I want to go to the parks. I want to show people like, hey, these are some tips that I have found. I want to be helpful in that regard. And surprisingly, I think the first video that I had that I did that went that got a lot of views was doing how to get max score on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin over in Walt Disney World. That was probably my first big video that I ever did. And I was kind of blown away by the fact, but it's true. If you try to show people like, hey, this is how you can do stuff, people will watch. But like they have gone to the other extreme of just, this is what Disney's putting out there and Disney's paying for me to go there. And again, I don't see anything wrong with Disney throwing cash at vloggers to have them cover things. I just feel like over the last year, it's become so PR polished, like you said, that it just feels like an ad the entire time, and everybody's doing the same content. Nobody just goes to the park anymore and has a fun day.
Well, even we were talking about with the WDW News Tonight. Now, we watch them fairly regularly. We don't watch all of the episodes. It's sort of like one of those things that we can put on and do other things and sort of pay attention to it. So we were talking about that, and we were talking about how Tom Course is all about, oh, D23, it looks positive. He's all stoked for it. I don't mean to call out people by names, but I just did. I'm sorry. That he's all stoked for it and stuff. But the reality is, if they don't do well, he doesn't do well either.
True.
Because his whole channel is around Disney World, like it is. So they have to do well. Otherwise, he doesn't. I mean, even in like the blog sphere, I watch some of the more conservative vloggers, and I'm not conservative if you've ever met me, but I watched a lot of their stuff when they talk about like media and stuff, and they always hate on these like videos and movies and everything. But it's like, but they love it at the same time because it makes them money.
Yeah.
So all these really bad movies that are coming out, they love it. They love every time they sit in a theater and like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. This is going to make me cha-ching bucks.
Yeah.
It's kind of what YouTube's got to. And the same thing rolls into the Disney vlog sphere. Because like, if you think about it, a lot of the Disney vloggers that we watched have left. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they still cover Disney because Disney does video. Disney videos get a lot of clicks.
They do.
You can't refute that. They get a lot of watchers. A lot of people are interested in Disney. A lot of people can't afford to go to Disney. So they like to live vicariously through other people. And I get that because we did
we're
that.
very thankful for the people who subscribe to our channel that do watch our Disney content too.
100%.
Like, you know, those people are valuable in this space. So I just want to preface that.
But also, I was going to say, we are thankful for them too. When we lived in Albany, New York and couldn't get away,
Yeah.
like watching some of them go to Disney was a
Got us through it.
fantastic escape. When we were locked down in COVID in New York and couldn't even leave our house, being able to like watch somebody else do something fun was excellent. So I get that. But the problem is that they're moving away from that to just pure PR spend, PR market. It's like, who invites us, who's willing to pay for it, and that's what we'll do.
Like, I feel like when was the last time I saw kind of the core Disney vlog space just go to the park without any type of agenda in terms of like, I'm something new that Disney's putting out. Like, I would love to see them be like, I'm going to go ride my favorite rides at Disney World, or I'm going to show you guys how I like to tackle the parks, or just something along the regards of something that's not new content in the terms of Disney PR and what they're trying to push out, and just show me like what it is that you like to do. Like, just go have a fun day without any strings attached to it and see what happens. I would love to see that content again. And some of them trickle that in there, here and there, but it's become harder and harder to find.
It's also become more and more obvious who's on the media list, you know, who has some contracts with people, who is being asked to be there. I love the people who do sponsored content with like Disney, and they're like, oh, Disney gave us a free day to the parks, but this isn't sponsored. Yes, it is. That's how sponsorships work.
It really is. And like, people just need to be more honest with themselves. And I don't care that they're on Disney PR. I don't care that Disney pays them.
I don't either.
Honestly, I hope one day we're there too, but I feel like there's a better way to frame it and be different, and nobody's doing that. Nobody's taking that risk. Nobody's taking that chance to try and showcase it differently.
Yeah.
And I just feel bored a lot of the time watching some of the content that's being put out there.
Well, it's kind of like, okay, so a bunch of vloggers put out a video. Let's just take Halloween Horror Nights. I know that's not Disney, but it'll work in our stays because most of our Disney vloggers went to Halloween Horror Nights, right? So we can all agree on that. So you get Halloween Horror Nights, right? It comes out, the first week it comes out, you get a block of videos. And you basically have 100 plus vloggers to pick from. Which one do you want to see go to Halloween Horror Nights? And that's your choice. And then it's like, that's it. There's nothing else beyond that. So all of these vloggers who put out the same things over and over again, it's like, okay, I've already seen Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
If you want to go there, you're going to have to show me something different about Halloween Horror Nights that I'm going to enjoy. Now, I get that you're going there to enjoy the houses. Like, that's what most people do. But if you're going there to create content, you really have to think about, like, what is it that I'm going to create here?
Yeah. And then not only that, but I feel like the other half of that coin is the fact that all they do is paint it so positively that there's no wrong.
Yes.
There's absolutely no wrong. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, where when you're watching somebody go to an event for the first time, whether it's a Disney event, a Universal event, or just going to the opening of some type of attraction, and it's opening attraction, and you can see that there's more than one vlogger there, and all they do is paint it perfectly, it's a lie, because it's never going to be like that in the weeks, months, years after that. They tend to put a lot of the good stuff up front for these vloggers to capture, and then as soon as like that first week, first month is over, it's gone.
So let's talk about that. This is a great example. So we go back to Halloween Horror Nights, right? All of the vloggers that we've watched so far were like, how great it is, how great these houses were. I think we watched one vlogger who said that they weren't really super big on the Stranger Things house. They thought it could have been better. That was the most critical I've heard of the entire event. Now, go and check out them news articles that are coming out this week. People can't get into any of these houses without buying the express pass. People are literally being turned away. They'll get in line to go to a house. Cast members or whatever they call them at Universal will come down and be like, nope, sorry. This is at capacity for the rest of the night. It's over. And they're like, there's only an hour into this event, and they're already shooing us away. Not one vlogger said that, because all of them got the express pass for free or included, and they all just went to the houses and told you how great they are. But in reality, it wasn't good. And I think the most eye-opening thing for me as a vlogger, and we had watched a ton of videos about the West Coast before we moved out here. Like, I was fascinated by Disneyland. I really wanted to see the Haunted Mansion. I wanted to see Hatbox Ghost. We also wanted to check out Knott's Berry Farm and go to their chicken dinner thing. And we went. We went there. We went out to the West Coast, and Knott's Berry wasn't the highlight of our trip anyway, but we do want to go back and actually go fully explore Knott's Berry. But we went to Knott's Berry Farm. I had the chicken, and and I'm not kidding. I was going to cuss, but I'm not, because we're going to be on YouTube. I'm not kidding you. I was just like, this isn't even as good as Publix chicken.
Yeah.
It's not even as good as Publix chicken.
The ranch was bottled ranch.
But if you watch vloggers, they're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life.
And here's the one thing I will say too.
And you're just like, what?
When we ate at Knott's Berry, we both looked at each other, and we said Publix is better. And again, they had bottled ranch. The stuff felt very pre-made, not really home cooked.
100%, yeah.
But I do wonder, compared to some of the other places that they have on the West Coast, maybe it is the best they got. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the West Coast has great food. but great food of certain kinds. They don't have everything. They don't have good Southern cooking. And that's what I envision fried chicken is Southern cooking. So I have to ask myself, have they ever been to Publix? Have they ever had Publix chicken?
And my answer would be yes. They all go to Disney World. All of these vloggers.
But it doesn't mean that they go to Publix.
You can't. I'm sorry. Help me out here, but you can't skip Publix if you go there. Publix is
Agreed.
everywhere. That is the only real shopping experience you can have in Orlando. So, like, where would they be going to eat?
Well, here, I use this as an example. I have had friends who have visited the South and saw Publix, didn't know what it was, and never went inside. Because they know certain brands, they know Albertsons, or they know Whole Foods.
Kroger owns all of those, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
And so they tend to go with the brands that they know, and they don't venture out. Now,
okay, so but we're saying Publix chicken. Publix chicken isn't even the best fried chicken
it's really
I've ever
not,
had.
but it's good.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so if you're going to the East Coast, there are other places to get fried chicken that are better than Publix.
Yeah,
Like, honestly, small mom and pops places can make some of the best fried chicken.
This is true. This is true. My grandma used to get some from a gas station in
Right.
the middle of nowhere.
Well, I mean, when we lived in northern Georgia in Young Harris, almost every gas station had fried chicken.
Yeah.
And I imagine it was comparable to Knott's Berry Farms fried chicken.
Yeah, probably. And going back to what we were trying to say, it was a disappointment because, like you said, we did a bunch of research. We watched all these people go. Everybody kept saying, like, you got to get the Knott's Berry chicken. Got to get the Knott's Berry chicken. You got to try the boysenberries.
And to piggyback, too, on something we were talking about a little bit earlier that kind of rolls into this is Nacy's talk about, like, how these vloggers go to places and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Mm-hmm. We watched one of the videos of the bigger vlogger. He doesn't drink alcohol anymore, but he was invited to a Busch Gardens event and a beer fest. So he just went around talking about how he can't drink any of these beers because he doesn't drink alcohol anymore, which, by the way, good for you. If you've gone through AA or whatever reason you've given up alcohol, that's awesome.
Right.
But then why would you cover it? Why would you cover it for your fans and go there and be like, I can't have any of this? Or another big vlogger that we watch is on a health kick, which he seems to have fallen off of lately. But for like a good month, he was on a health kick. And he would shame people, be like, he went to Oogie Boogie Bash and he's like, shaming, these are super sugary foods. It's an event to have fun. Like,
which brings me to another vlogger.
Wait, but one more second. And if you're complaining to Disney about the amount of sugar, complain about the quality of their food and how bad it is.
And
that's
how
what you need to complain.
expensive it is.
Yes. But okay, go ahead. What did you say?
I was going to say there's a whole other vlogger group too that we watch that's not a Disney vlogger, and that's all they do is shame people for the calories that they eat. Yes. So all I kept thinking when we were watching this particular vlogger is just like, thanks for making me feel great about you.
Well, the thing is, like, it doesn't hurt you to just say no and pass on something.
Yeah.
It can hurt other people by being like, oh, why are you eating this? Well, maybe that's all they can afford. Maybe that's what they want.
Or like, this isn't healthy. Yeah. This isn't healthy.
And let's be clear.
Nothing.
You don't want to live forever. Climate change is going to get us all in the end.
I just saw an article too that said that there's an asteroid that's set to like hit the Earth. I didn't click the article to see like when. All it said was you've got time, but you know.
Well, if an asteroid is going to hit the Earth, I'm just going to strip down naked and run around going, yeah, because I'm going to get my last jellies out before I die. And then watch the asteroid miss us and be like, oh, I'm naked. Everyone's seeing me naked.
Gary's going to be hauled off to prison, and I'm going to be like, yeah, cool. Didn't see that one coming. That wasn't in my bingo card for 2025. But yeah, so it's just interesting when the shift that we've noticed in the YouTube market of people who made vlogs about their adventures. And that's what it is at the core, is like people want to watch you go on an adventure.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've learned as a content creator is that we've moved more away from being informative. We've moved away from that to being more like, here's our journeys. Come share them with us. Let's have fun.
And I think, and don't get me wrong, you can still be helpful in that space. You can, because again, we drop legit tips all the time. When we're like, hey, like this happened. But I think they've lost their way in terms of just go to the park and have fun. Like just go have a fun day and not feel like you have to hit point A, point B, point C and paint it all in a great light. Like there's one vlogging group that we watch, and every single thing they put in their mouth is the most amazing thing they've ever ate. And we have ate several of their things, and we're like, this is garbage.
And not to just call them out, there are a ton of like TikTokers and stuff too that do Disney stuff. They're always like everything. Oh yeah, that touches
Vegas
their
is
lips.
just as bad with like the Vegas TikToks. They'll be like, you got to try this restaurant. This restaurant is delicious.
We've stopped.
We
actually had this whole list of TikTok stuff that we had seen. We went to 5 of them. I'm not kidding you. We went to 5 different restaurants. Every time it was an absolute disappointment. We vlogged a few of them. We just didn't even bother the other ones because we're like...
It was disappointing.
Well, and it's because I get tired of just being like, this sucks over and over.
We don't want to be
negative.
negative.
Sucks. Yeah. So we try to be like, how are we going to get a positive spin on this? How is it going to be good? And there are times where we go to these restaurants. Like we went to one that was supposed to be like one of the first steakhouses here. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's off the strip.
Oh, yeah.
It's right off the side of this interstate. We were like, oh, this shouldn't be bad because we had this place.
It's been there since the 70s, y'all.
Since the 70s. We had this place called Bubba's in Fort Myers, Cape Coral area that we used to go to. Loved it. I thought it would be like that. It was not. It was like, it smelled like your grandmother's mothball closet. The food was either freezer dried or just tasteless. And it was just like, oh, cool. But if you watch vloggers, they're like, this is the greatest thing since
this is
whatever.
So cool. You gotta check it out. It's nostalgic. It's this, it's that. And like, I'm sorry. Stop with the like overly, like, I think you can still be somewhat positive in some of the things you do where you're like, hey, we're gonna go try this really old steakhouse. It probably isn't gonna be good, but let's see what happens. Instead of being like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is for us as vloggers and just the behind the scenes to our content creation too, every time we say something negative about a restaurant, gets us downvotes. Always gets us downvotes. If you are positive, if you're entirely positive about something, even if it's really bad and you're just like, this is great, there won't be a single downvote. As soon as you're like, this didn't taste good, this was freezer burn, this was X, downvote. And it's like, it's fascinating.
Or there'll always be somebody in the comments that's like, well, I liked it. Or the flip, when we say positive.
I'm not worried about that stuff. But it really makes you wonder, like, is it their marketing department sees it and like, oh, they said something bad, let's give them a downvote. Because there's never really any comments associated with that downvote. It's just a downvote. So I wonder, from a Disney perspective, if you do Disney content, you become a bigger vlogger, are you susceptible to Disney's PR department? And they obviously have bot farms.
Yeah.
Let's not lie. You can look at their movies and stuff and reviews for their movies and stuff. And you know they have bot farms, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Do they go and downvote? Is that why everyone's so positive? I mean, those are things that I kind of wonder.
Yeah, it's been a bad summer. But yet everybody keeps talking about how great these movies are.
Or the food is, and we went, and it's, or like even like Food and Wine. Food and Wine was the exact same food they had 4 years ago when we last went. There was very few new things, and it was just like, how are you going to rate this good if they never change anything out? The point of that is to be experimental, interesting taste, fascinating things to do, and they were just the same bland everything.
But yeah, if you watch the vloggers, they just talk about how great it is. Yeah. And again, you know, moving forward, we do have plans next year to go back to Disney and kind of refocus our Disney content. And there's probably going to be more Disney content in the next year or so. And honestly, I hope we can continue to come to the table and talk about things and be as honest as we can be, and not get stuck in that PR bubble of everything is sunshine, rainbows, and daisies, because
it's not.
It's
there
not.
Has to be some honesty. Like, you have to have some honesty. You can't just go around being like, if everything's great, what's the point of watching you?
And even then, like, where's the reality of it? You know, people tune in to vlogs because they want to see people living in their real life. And if all it is this positive, where can people relate to you on that level if everything is perfect and you're perfect? Because I'm going to be honest, people just sit there and just throw stones at glass houses, and that's what they do.
Oh yeah, there's Nacy went down a rabbit hole like a couple weeks ago with this whole hate vlog for some of these vloggers that we watch. And I'm like, why do you bother? Like, who cares? Like, people are going to hate what you do. People are mean, but they're only mean when they're hiding behind a keyboard. If you met them in person, they wouldn't say any of those things. They'd probably be 1,000 times nicer. But you also need to remember too, before we get off the train on the hate thing, people have bad days and they just take it out on other people for, not the right reasons. And you probably shouldn't do that, but it's just what they are. So you don't ever know what those people are going through, that they write those comments or have those anger and frustrations. So I just try to be nice and move on, because really, It is what it is.
And, you know, wrapping this segment up with the whole YouTube vlogger space and the shift that we've seen, I still want to preface it with, like, we still watch these vloggers. We still enjoy watching majority of their content. It's just something we've noticed that there's a shift, and not to be overly negative about it. It's just, it's disappointing that they're no longer showing these fun adventures that we used to like to go on with them. And I wish we could see more of that versus everything has to be a PR video put out by ABC. And I think that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to it, especially with the writers.
Owned by Disney, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Fox is owned by Disney too.
Everything's owned by Disney.
I guess NBC is. I think Peacock is the only thing that's not owned by Disney. Yeah, but I agree, and 100%. We watch their adventures, but a lot of like the food vloggers and stuff, we've stopped watching entirely because everything's great. So like, there's a line. Like we have stopped watching some of the vloggers, but a lot of them we just wait for them to go on adventures and then watch those. We don't really care about I went to Halloween Horror Nights or I went to try this meal at X restaurant, you know?
Yeah, we kind of steer away from that. Unless it's a restaurant that we're considering going to, we've never been to before, we will sometimes watch that just to kind of get a feel for what the atmosphere might look like. But honestly, any opinions that they have on the place whatsoever, we don't listen to. Just because it's never usually the same.
Yeah, and if you're listening on Spotify, we are on YouTube at Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, so make sure to head over there to follow our adventures. But this will end our podcast preview. Yeah. So if you like it, make sure to hit that thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And ring that notification bell so you get notified when we do at least 3 videos a week.
And make sure you guys check out the rest of this podcast anywhere you guys download podcasts. And we will be right back.
Ain't that the truth?
Baby Ruth.
Bye, y'all.